Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, living beneficiaries, to the show for living beneficiaries, the House of Hidalgo show on the Estate Radio Network. Prepare for the most educational 60 minutes on all of radio with your host, Rick Hidalgo. The House of Hidalgo show can be followed on Twitter or Facebook by searching House of Hidalgo. Find the show on the web at www.therockofsalem.org. Sign up for the newsletter, and while you're there, take the 5-question survey to let us know what you think. The Estate Radio Network is part of the Blog Talk Radio family of networks and can be found at www.blogtalkradio.com/South Dakota DP. Join the show now by chat or call 619-639-4605. Don't forget to dial 1 to get in the queue. Here's your host, Rick Hidalgo! Hello, everyone. This is Rick Hidalgo. Of course, this is the House of Hidalgo show on the Estate Radio Network. We're excited again to be on tonight. This is episode number 36 in all. It's starting to pile up on me here. I look back to when we started this thing back in the end of May, and boy, we've gone down some serious roads here. But I wanted to remind you that there is a chat room down at the bottom of the page on the Blog Talk, blogtalkradio.com/South Dakota DP. You can join the chat group down there, or you can certainly call in 619-639-4605. If you want to be in the queue, dial 1 to get in the queue. Tonight we have a very, very special guest once again. Our good friend Ray Cox is joining us. I've been looking forward to this. Slight change in the title, however. I labeled it Freedom 201, but Professor Cox decided he'd like to label this Liberty 101. So we've kind of taken a little bit of a different direction, but this is still the one place you can come and get the absolute truth without exception. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring in my good friend Ray Cox. Are you with us?
Hey, I'm here.
Well, thanks for coming, Ray, and we've been looking forward to this. What do you got for us today?
Well, I figured since we did our first little show on Freedom 101, we did the second one on Freedom 102, figured the best thing we could do would be to hit Liberty 101 and get everybody kind of up to speed on, freedom and liberty are so close. And, actually when you're defining liberty, you have to almost inevitably use the word freedom. So, but there are some little differences in understanding, and there's some differences in point of view of what liberty means. So in order for us to talk about our freedom and our liberty in our nation, we should know what those are. So if we do Liberty 101 tonight and maybe do another one on Liberty 102, we can hit the idea of what liberty really is. So are you up and ready for this, buddy?
Yeah, I'm all for it. Let's go for it. What do we need here, Ray? What do we need a Black's Law dictionary
Well, what we probably ought to do first, anybody who wants to, if they want to look up just in say, Merriam's dictionary or Webster's dictionary, they're real close to the same in their basic meaning. So we'll start like we did with Freedom 101. We'll start with the dictionary definitions first before we go to the legal.
Okay.
And or actually should be lawful, but first of all, there's a lot of opinion of what liberty means, and if you go through the history of those definitions, you'll find that there are those that not only define liberty in different ways, but they also define positive and negative liberty. And as we go through those today, you'll see that in the minds of most of us, they flip those around. What they call negative liberty, those of us who walk in liberty would call positive liberty. So to start off, if we look up liberty as a dictionary definition, it says the quality or state of being free, the power to do as one pleases, freedom from physical restraint, freedom from arbitrary or despotic control, the positive enjoyment of various social, political, or economic rights and privileges, which personally I have no idea how you could have rights and privileges in liberty, and
Amen.
E would be the power of choice. Okay. So, and that's the first little section. There's another two sections, but as we start with those, the quality or state of being free. Okay. So if it's saying the quality or state of being free, that would mean if when defining liberty, you could be free, but it would depend on how much freedom you had. You could define that freedom as, well, I'm free to work and make a wage, but I have to pay taxes on it. And I'm free to go from point A to point B, but I have to pay for some kind of license or toll to get there. And I'm free to eat, but I can only eat certain things because I'm not allowed to eat other things. So, you know, that would be, you're still free, but how are your freedoms based? And then you might have freedom where you can get up in the morning when you want, travel where you want, eat what you want, think what you want, speak what you want, and you could do whatever you want as long as it doesn't interfere in the freedom or liberty of another being, another living creature. So the second part of that, not being quality, but it says the quality or state of being free. So what if you were to think of the state of being free? What kind of state are you in? You know, are you in prison and you have your state of freedom is going out into the yard to exercise for an hour a day? Or you know, is it the state of being able to show up when and where you want? You know, to go anywhere, any place, and you don't have any chains binding your feet or cuffs or any rope holding you to whatever vessel so that you can't swim away, or any ankle on your, or anchor on your ankle. So liberty being, the state or quality of being free. Liberty could be whatever you would choose it to be, depending on what contract you choose to accept. And that's what it really comes down to, is what do you choose to accept and contract as your liberty? Okay. So while you're thinking about what you choose as your contract for your liberty, think about, the second portion is the power to do as one pleases. Okay? Now, if I please to do something, if it was my pleasure to do a thing and it involved some kind of act or it created something that caused you either a financial or physical harm, well, not only is that not liberty to me, because when you cause harm to some other, it actually creates a bondage for you, even if you don't know it immediately. Some of these guys that are up there in Washington, D.C. will figure that out one of these days.
Yeah.
They'll find out that they've given themselves liberties, and their liberties are harming other people. And they will pay a price for it. And even if the American people remained retarded and failed to do anything, they as a group will pay for what they've done, because you can't harm another living being and get away with it. There is a price to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So, freedom from physical restraint. I mean, nobody likes to be handcuffed or shackled, or placed in a room that they can't get out of, or have an anklet on that won't allow them to leave their house. Restraint has never been something that living entities have been done well with. In the wild, even the animals don't like the fences that mankind puts up. They're constantly either digging under them or jumping over them or knocking them down.
Right.
So no living being likes a physical restraint. Okay? Or the C would be freedom from arbitrary or despotic control. Okay? Well, arbitrary and despotic control, there's who wants to be told, oh, well, you can't drive down that road today, or you can't drive your car on Wednesday, or you can't buy gas on every other day. These are things that we've been going through in our country since the early 70s. I remember the early gas wars. Well, you can, because your license plate ends with a negative or a even number, you can only buy gas on even numbered days.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised they didn't turn it around just to freaking confuse people. Well, if you have an even number, you can only buy gas on odd number days. Because that's the nature of their father. The nature of confusion, the nature of lie. So, okay, D is the and this is a weird one, because this is where we get back into what the fiction government would want people to believe. And it's the positive enjoyment of various social, political, or economic rights and privileges. Okay? So is it liberty to enjoy various, not all, but various social, or various political, or various economic, or various privileges? Why not enjoy all?
Semantics again.
Yeah, they're playing a game with the brain. Okay? As a being that is sovereign, I can enjoy whatever I want to enjoy. And them attempting to stop me from enjoying it is only a hindrance to them. Okay? Their failure to comprehend their creator is what cost them. And we in America need to learn, which we will be learning, how to create what it takes to cost them. Every time they try to take something from us, if we haven't consented to it, it costs them. Because that's where we have to hit them. We have to hit them where in their wallets, where it counts. If we start shutting down the sheriff departments and shutting down the police departments and shutting down counties and courthouses by using bonds, taking their bonds, then all of a sudden we're removing their liberty, because we're the ones that created it in the first place. So we, as the creators of the government, are the ones who have the authority to restrain their liberty, which is what the Constitution was all about. We were to have absolute liberty, and the government was to have limited liberty.
Right.
So when did it get turned around? We go back to the other two shows, 1871. Actually, 1861, but 1871 was when it was written and stamped and sealed.
Nails in the coffin.
So, yeah. So we have a nation that was based on liberty for the people and limited liberty, limited freedom for the government. And then a corporation came along, the banking, which has destroyed every social and economic group in the history of the planet. And one day we'll go over all that too. When people figure out what banking is and what families are banking and how they've been banking far beyond history, far beyond what's written even in our scriptures. That'll be an eye-opening experience for a lot of people. But we need to start limiting their liberties. We need to start taking away, if the local police department, if the police department in your city cannot operate with respect to the citizens, then the citizens need to say, okay, we're not paying another tax on property. We're not paying the tax on lights. We're not paying tax on anything until you either have proper respect or you're all gone. And we're going to file claims against your bond, and we'll let the insurance companies deal with you. So we'll start taking away the liberty that they have to take away our liberties. Somehow they've taken liberty that was never afforded them. So do you have any experience in that arena there, Rick?
Yeah, I can share with you that I'm right now in the process of starting some communication lines with my sheriff. If he doesn't listen, well, then we'll have to go another direction. But yeah, I'm attempting to do exactly what you just said.
Very good. Yeah, there's officers out there who are absolutely honorable. And I know a couple of these guys. And I would tell you right now that at any given point in time, whether they were on duty or off duty, they would give their life for another American. And they're honorable. They're very brave men. But you have some of these guys out there who are, I don't know if they're so chemically steroided up that they can't think anymore, or if they were socially retarded from being in school, if they were maybe bullied on or something in school and they're trying to get everybody back, or, I don't know what the problem is, but some of these guys are, what kind of guy, you see these videos, these guys, 250-pound man cuffing a woman, sitting her on the curb, and then kicking her in the head. That's not liberty. He's taking a liberty, but she didn't have any.
Right. Yeah, just being treated like chattel.
Yeah. So, we as Americans cannot sit back and not do anything. Our forefathers warned us. When our forefathers walked out of the door after signing the Constitution, everybody asked, well, what did you give us? What form of government did you give us? And Thomas Jefferson says, a republic, if you can keep it. Okay? We have stories of the past, stories in history of republics that have fallen, but every time there's been a republic, those who had it stood for it and fought for it. People watch that movie 300, and most of them don't really grasp, but those men went to battle for their republic. 300 men standing against a 1,000,000-man army because they're standing for their republic. Now, what kind of damage did they inflict? Xerxes did not want to go on in battle. He sure as heck didn't want to go on when the rest of the army decided to join in a year later, or 2 years later. I'm not sure. I think it was a year later. But we in America, at some point, have to stand up and say, okay, these are the limits we gave you, and you are not following the limits. You're trying to put limits on us that were never intended, and we're not going to put up with it anymore. And once we get our cities in order and our counties in order, get sheriffs in there that are actually sheriffs, not sheriffs that are sold out to the corporation, then we start working on our states. Get our state troopers in order. Okay? Whether they be like California Highway Patrol or whether they be Texas Rangers or Texas State Police or, whatever state you happen to be in, your state needs to be in order as well. So is the state taking liberty over the people, or do the people have liberty and they control the liberty of the state? And this is where the rubber meets the road.
Mm-hmm.
This is where power of the people comes in. We have power. We, the people, have far more power than any government on the planet. And, I mean, you can look at Egypt as a good example. What did they just do? Well, but they did so with their military, didn't they? They went to their military and said, this is the way it's going to be. And the military stood up for the people. Why? You think all that military wanted to stand against the people? How many people are in the military? If you took all the government officials and all of the military, and then you added to that all the UN military forces, what kind of stand do they make against 300 million Americans?
Right.
So, we the people have force as long as we the people have the ability to stand up and think for ourselves, take our own liberty, walk in our liberty, walk in freedom. Okay? How do you expect? Do you expect that somebody's just going to give you liberty just because you are complaining that you don't have it? I mean, how many people that are listening to this radio show went to school and there was a bully at school? And just because you thought to yourself, wow, you know what, I hate bullies, that bully walked up and said, hey, you know what, I'm not going to bully on you anymore because you were thinking that you hate bullies. Or I heard you said you hated to get bullied on. I heard one of the other kids say it, so I'm not going to bully on you anymore. That never happened.
No.
I'm willing to bet that in the history of this planet, there's never been a bully that said, oh, man, I heard from somebody else you didn't like to be bullied, so I'm just not going to bully you anymore. Bullies thrive on that. They thrive on the weak. So are you going to be a weak complainer? What's that?
Oh, I was just thinking, Ray, are you saying that these bullying programs are not convincing bullies to stop bullying? Is that what you're saying, Ray?
Absolutely. Yeah, the bullies are seeing those on TV and they're going, oh my God, my whole thinking's wrong.
Yeah.
These boys and girls that are bullying, they're not going to stop because somebody doesn't like it. They're going to get worse because they prey on fear.
Right.
And the American people, in general, and we're talking in better than 90 percentile of the American people are in so much fear that they're afraid to go outside. I mean, they go out and play, but they do what they do. They're always in fear. I have to go and comply with the state for this, and I have to go comply for that, and I have to go comply for this, and I have to go comply for that. And they're so busy trying to comply, they can't live.
Yep, that's right.
See? They let somebody go and just take their home. Yeah, we decided that since we sold your note to some other bank, and we got paid, we went ahead and turned over the contract to that other bank, and the other bank comes in and says, "Oh yeah, we picked up the contract, and we don't care that you never contracted with us. We're gonna make you pay anyway." Well, the original bank was already paid off, but you're just going to let them take it. Why? Because Americans are afraid to go learn anything. They're afraid to think for themselves. Oh well, I paid a lawyer. Well, okay, you pay a lawyer. So you go into the lawyer and you tell him what's going on. The lawyer says, "Oh, yeah, I'm here to defend you." And we go right back to the meaning of words. If I attack Rick, Rick stops me. He's fending for himself. If he defends, he allows me to harm him. The attorney says, "I'm going to allow these guys to harm you, so go ahead and pay me money so I can let them harm you anyway." Yeah. It's people. We got to think. We've got to stop. Beer is not the most important thing. The 4x4 is not the most important thing.
Now
it's not the most important thing.
You just killed somebody's paradigm right there, Ray.
Oh, I know, whole bunches of them, especially with the snooky part. Yeah, or what's the other one that just had her baby?
You're out west,
yeah.
man. You're real close to that stuff.
Yeah, well, some of those people are out there by closer to you. They're out by Chicago too, or in New York. Like Snooky's closer to you than she is to me. So, but and the only reason why I know any of these names is because I see people complaining about them. Well,
on
this
Facebook,
is what they're
right?
teaching my kids. Yeah. This is what they're teaching my kids. Well, why is your kid on the TV? Yeah. Or if they're on the TV, why don't you have them limited so they can watch what's going to teach them properly? If you can't teach your kids properly, don't expect the media and some public school to do it, because they're going to teach your kid all of the things that are contrary to what you were raised to believe, because they're changing you.
Yeah.
So this is the power of liberty.
Yeah.
The power of liberty is, liberty says you can go get married. Do you need a license to get married? Only if you're a slave. And why do you want to get married? Well, our church tells us to. Well, did you ever sit down with your pastor and say, "Can you show me in the Hebrew or the Greek the word marriage?" Let's really look it up. I want to see the word marriage. I want to see where, I know somewhere in there it has to say, well, Samson, who was a judge, performed a marriage. And so you get in there and you go, wait a minute, Samson didn't perform any marriages. He performed wedlock. So where did the word marriage come from?
Now, Ray, you're hitting on a hot button subject here, because there's probably somebody out there reading one of those paraphrase versions where it does say marriage, like maybe the NIV or something.
No, they're probably reading the King James version. King James 1611 version of the Bible has no nouns. It was all modified so that there's no nouns, only verbs and adjectives. It was a destruction of the Bible. And, people fight, they'll swear up in God that King James Version, it's the authorized version. Well, who authorized it? For God's sake, it was King James. God didn't authorize it. If God had authorized it, it would have had nouns. It would have been full of truth.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir.
It would have been translated properly. Yeah. I'm hoping that I'm preaching to the choir on every single person that's listening. Nobody's learning anything new. You all know this stuff. You all know that if you ever got married, your kids are owned by the state because you made that contract. And unless you go vacate that contract, your kids remain owned by the state, even if they're in their 20s and 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to understand this contract, how contract law works. And this is still liberty. Okay? As a freeman, as a person with liberty, it is not against law for you to be bound to another person for life or for a period of time, if that's what you chose in your contract, and to have offspring, have children. It's not against the law. Well, if it's not against the law, then there's no reason for you to have a license unless you're saying, oh, well, I want to be a slave because as a slave I get benefits.
And they're great.
Well, yeah, I get the benefit to have vaccines so my kids can have autism.
Yeah.
I get the benefit of pharmaceuticals so I can die early. And I get the benefit of government-provided retirement that I pay for my whole life. I might not even be there at the end of my life if I live long enough, if they haven't killed me with pharmaceuticals before I get there.
You also get the benefit of voluntarily filing taxes.
Yes. And you get the benefit of a license to move, they're calling it driving. The license to use thoroughfare. Okay? I could have sworn when I read the Constitution that it said there shall be no toll, tax, or ferry to move along public thoroughfare. But hey, you know what? That's a benefit. If you find it, hey, it benefits you to pay for tags on your car and plates and license and driver's license and insurance so that you can go to the store and get bread and come home and go, oh, dang it, I forgot the milk, and go back. If that's a benefit to you, then, hey, you know what? You need to be in that system. So do all of us a favor and just take a little short trip over to Washington, D.C., that little 10-mile square, and get an apartment there. Because you need to be under that system. But if you find that you don't need to have a license in your hand to drive well, if you can pay attention to the road and you can look out for the other drivers and you can look out for people on motorcycles and you don't run over pedestrians, then, hey, you know what? You should be here in America and you shouldn't have a license unless you're going to be for hire. And then because you're for hire, you're using property to make, the traveled way to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you're putting excess weight on the roadway, so you're taking away from the liberties of others, which means that's when you get licensed. Anytime you take away the liberties of others, that's the only time you should get licensed. That's a driver, not a traveler. So we have liberty in America. And we have the liberty to do all kinds of things. But do we hold our liberty or do we give it away? Are we letting somebody take it? What did you start to say, bro?
No, I was just going to ask you, going back to that license thing, what you're saying is there actually should be a license to kill.
Yeah. I mean, if you have to have a license to drive a car, then, hey, they're trying to say it's illegal to drive without it. So then for the same, you should be able to go down and pay a fee, take a test, to kill, because if it's unlawful, then you could do not just killing, but you should be able to get a license to choke the local politician. You should be able to get a license to kick the knee to the local police officer. Because those things are not legal. So if you're going to get a license for stuff, just go down, pay a fee, take a test, and I got the best one I could think of is go down, pay a fee, $100. You take a test to learn how to do it, and you stand there for, say about an hour, slapping the back of the head of one of those, punching dummies until you get really good at it, so you can slap the hair off the back of the head of a foreign fiction banking president, CEO. Just slap the hair right off that head.
That's interesting. I know some people who'd pay the $100 right away.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of us might go out and borrow, $5,000-$10,000 just for that opportunity. So, somebody make a fortune off of that licensing. Dude, I think they got it all wrong. They're trying to license the wrong stuff. If they're going to license all this stuff, they need to license stuff that people really want to do.
That's a good point.
So, but what, think about what your personal liberty is. What is liberty to you? If you're going to have liberty, what are you going to be free from having to do in order to do what you want to do? So is there anything you should have to do in order to do what you want to do, besides going to work to make enough money so you can drive down to the beach without going through 6 checkpoints? You go through the sheriff checkpoint. Oh, they're not drunk, so they get to keep going. Local police checkpoint. Oh, no, there's no drugs in the car, so you get to keep going. Oh, NSA checkpoint. Okay, everybody take their clothes off. It's like, holy cow. We live in a nation of just weird freaks who are willing to put up with stuff that is only lawfully allowed in the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C. And the rest of us Americans are going, if we, travel through some 5th, 6th-dimensional barrier and get stuck in the Twilight Zone, because this stuff's turning really weird.
Right.
I mean, if you really think about it, stuff that we watched from Twilight Zone, stuff that they made all the way back into the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and today none of that stuff's far-fetched.
No, not at all. It's like a White House press conference.
It's not far-fetched.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's nothing that has been the imagination of the past that seems weird today because it's commonplace. I mean, heck yeah, you can go down and get a watch that has a video monitor in it, and you can talk on the phone and look at the person you're talking to and go, hey, man, I remember this from Dick Tracy. And some of that stuff's cool. I mean, I can't see that screen very well anymore. I mean, I'd have to have a watch about the size of my fist to be able to see it. But, slap your chest and beam me up, Scotty, and we've got all that stuff,
How much of that stuff, Ray, are we creating by thinking of it? Or is that for another show?
No, that's liberty, isn't it? Isn't that the liberty God gave us?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, an apple tree. If you go out and look at an apple tree, all the apple trees I've ever looked at, none of them had peaches. None of them had pears. None of them had oranges or grapefruit. They all had apples. So we the children of the Creator God are, He's the apple tree, we're the apples. We're the apple of His eye. We're little creators. And what we think and believe and visualize and have emotion of, we create. Our imagination, who could have said it better than Einstein? The imagination is the world's coming attraction. So we're an incredible being. Human is something that is a wonder because we are not just the physical being. The liberty that is possessed by our spirit our spirit understands a liberty that is not even restrained by any form of physics, not restrained by gravity, not restrained by the speed of light, or even the speed of gravity. I don't know if anybody understands the speed of gravity, but if you move something here, exactly on the opposite side of the universe, it's affected over there instantaneously. That's how fast gravity is. Faster than the speed of light. And we, as spiritual beings, are not subject to any of the laws of this universe. But we have subjected ourselves to the law of the physical being in order to be able to experience this realm. But we were never meant to be slaves in this realm. That was never the purpose. And that's why we rebel against being slaves. And I have a firm belief inside me, maybe nobody else in the world has it, but I have a firm belief inside me that those who like to be slaves do not have the seal on their forehead that is defined in Revelation as the seal of God. That redemption value. They're not going back to be turned into God's new bottles. So,
hey, Ray, I wanted to share this with you. I'm looking at a Black's Law Dictionary, 9th edition, and I looked up natural liberty, and here's the definition. This is going to be interesting. The power to act as one wishes, without any restraint or control, unless by nature.
Right. Does it say whose concept that was?
It does not give it doesn't give any names.
Yeah, I think that's John Locke. There's. I'll give you an idea of some of these guys' definitions. The concept of negative liberty has several noteworthy aspects. First, negative liberty defines a realm or zone of freedom in the science of law. In Berlin's words, liberty in the negative sense involves an answer to the question, what is the area within which the subject, a person or group of persons, is or should be left to do or be what he is able to do or be without interference by other persons. Okay, some philosophers disagree on the extent of this realm, while accepting the main point that liberty defines the realm in which one may act unobstructed by others. Second, the restriction on the freedom to act, implicit in negative liberty, is imposed by a person or persons and not due to causes such as nature, lack, or incapacity. Helveticus expresses this point clearly. The freeman is the man who is not in irons, nor imprisoned in a jail, nor terrorized like a slave by the fear of punishment. It is the lack of freedom, not to fly like an eagle or swim like a whale. I had to look outside. I thought I had a visitor.
As long as it's not a badge. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what they call negative liberty. Negative liberty is when there's no obstruction by others to your choice of act. So that makes you wonder, okay, so what would positive liberty be? I had that written, and I can't find it. I spent some time, I lost it. But let me read this here, just an idea of it. It says, the dichotomy of positive and negative liberty is considered specious by political philosophers in traditions such as socialism, social democracy, libertarian socialism, and Marxism. Notice it didn't say libertarian republicanism. Libertarians are also socialists, and they don't understand it yet. Some of them argue that the positive and negative liberty are indistinguishable in practice, while others claim that one kind of liberty cannot exist independently of the other. A common argument is that the preservation of negative liberty requires positive action on the part of the government or society to prevent some individuals from taking away the liberty of others. Well, I don't know about everybody else, but I don't need a government to tell me not to stomp on your foot. I know that it's not good to stomp on your foot. You know, I don't need the government to tell me not to steal your car, or not to steal your bread, or not to cheat you out of your wages, because I know those things are not good. I don't want you to do those same things to me, so why would I need a government to tell me that?
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think would be, if what would you need a government to tell you, Rick?
What would I need a government to tell me?
Yeah, what thing is there that you just don't comprehend, you don't understand, and you need a government to define it for you?
You know, Ray, I'm absent of anything except for protection, but that I don't need them to. I don't need them to define what protection is. That's my job is to define what I need to be protected from.
Yeah.
But that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So doesn't that lend to the comprehension that the thing that is created, the government being created by us, can't understand the creator, which is us? I mean, how could the created understand the creator? Government can't understand us. It's a dead entity. It's not real.
Mm-hmm.
So how could it possibly comprehend the nature of the human being that's a living, breathing, eternal spirit? And most of those people up there that have chosen to walk in that entity, because it's a dead entity, because it's a corporation, it's not a living entity. I'll explain the living entity in a second. Because it's a dead entity, I think all those that have chosen are dead too. So
yeah.
They don't have any feeling or emotion. They don't have any compassion. They don't have any passion except for robbing from others because they can't figure out how to do it for themselves.
Right.
Now, let's look at the living side. How would you have a living government? Okay.
Right. Well,
how about
a
government that is run by, for, and of the people is the people's will, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, if we have a government like our republic that is of, for, and by the people, it's operating under our will. So as long as we are alive and it's following our will, it is alive. The minute it stops following our will, it dies. it becomes a dead entity, which
Right.
is why we were told from time to time the blood of patriots and tyrants needs to be spilled
Mm-hmm.
in the renewing of liberty. Okay? So some of us, I mean, I'm willing. If that's what it comes down to, and that's the only possible way to save our nation, I'm willing to spill blood for it. I don't want to because I'm not an aggressive nature person, but
Right.
if it has to be, I'll do it. But what I look at is very simple. We don't need the aggression. We know that their fiction entity only operates on negative value. That's why they need to create fear. Fear is a negative value. Everything that they do is all based on negatives. So if we, as living beings, simply refuse to participate with them financially, we take our nature away from them and do not allow them to make contract with our living being, calling it a straw man, calling it that all uppercase fiction entity.
Mm-hmm.
When we remove that and we vacate their contracts, all of their licenses and their certificates and all of their crap, when we vacate all that, we pull our signatures and autographs back from them and we say no longer, we're not participating. Every single person that does that collapses a straw man that they've borrowed money against. And they're already strapped. They have to increase the debt every single year because they're only paying interest now. And they can't keep up. Well, if every single American that vacates and takes that straw man away, that's one more straw man that they can't control the currency to of the negative debt, which means when we get about 3 to 10% of the Americans who have vacated, they can no longer, it won't be possible for them to last another 30 days. They won't be able to even pay the interest and they'll collapse. They'll completely bankrupt. They're already bankrupt financially, but they're keeping their appearances by military force and illusion. And when we start taking it away, they collapse. Now, the military is not going to...
Because they can't pay the military.
Right. Now, the military is not going to be under the control of an entity that can't pay it. So if all Americans will go in and say, that's it, I'm vacating, I'm not contracting with you anymore, I'm rescinding my signature, I'm rescinding my autograph, and you can't tie your straw man to me, I never had anything to do with it anyway, and you can't prove I had anything to do with it, but I can prove that you made it before I was even capable of signing a contract. And they vacate. By nature, our military will revert back to our republic. It'll have to happen. And the states will have control of the military again. But as long as you haven't vacated, if you're a person out there that's listening to this radio show, and if you have not vacated and you have not rescinded your signature from all those contracts, you're supporting the government you hate. You're the one supporting military control of the planet, military policing of the planet by the bankers. You're paying for the bankers to have that military control. And until you vacate, individually vacate, you're supporting them. So when you pay income tax, you shouldn't complain because you haven't vacated. When you get pulled over by the police, just accept your ticket and go, oh, yep, I'm a slave, and be happy with it because you chose that. Otherwise, vacate. You know, some of us did this decades ago. And we didn't do it when it was easy. I can tell you right now, I lost my family. I lost my friends. Okay? Everybody tried to tell me I was nuts. Oh, you talk about all that conspiracy stuff. Well, you know what? All of you are still slaves. I'm free. I've been free for 26 years. In August will be 27 years that I've been free, that I've been a sovereign. Okay? Did I pay a price for it? I absolutely did. Did I get beat up? Yes. Did I get arrested? Yes, unlawfully. Did I get kidnapped by the sheriffs? Yes. They held me for 70 days unlawfully. But you know what? I've overcome. Will that happen to you guys today? Not near as likely. Why? Because there's hundreds of thousands, if not a million, maybe up to 10 million people in this nation right now that are learning this. And it's not going to be long, and it's going to be 30 million. And that'll be 10%. When you have 30 million people who have said, that's it, you no longer have a police force that's willing to go out and beat people up because now they're afraid of the people. Okay? They've been doing this sneaky stuff because the people didn't understand. The people thought, oh, well, they're just doing it because those guys are criminals. No, a lot of those people were never a criminal. That's not to say they didn't beat up any criminals, because that's happened too. But what gives a cop a right to beat up somebody who's considered a criminal before they even had a chance to have a court case?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what I'd like to say to everybody out there. If you would like to live in a world with liberty, if you would like to see your neighbor able to go to work, make enough money to support their family, and have their family be able to play and do some things that are fun so that his kids aren't coming in your back door and stealing food out of your refrigerator because they're hungry. If you would like liberty so that you can make enough in your lifetime to help other people, if you would like to see liberty in not just your neighbors, but in your neighborhood, in your city, in your county, in your state, stand up and do something. For God's sake, vacate at least, so that the rest of us don't have to put up with this banking institution up there in Washington, D.C. that is creating havoc on the planet. Hey, there's no safe place on the planet from these morons. And somebody's got to do something about it. And the only people who can do anything about it is Americans. So ask yourself today, are you an American? Do you love your nation? Or are you a U.S. government citizen and you want to be a banking slave, a financial document of a foreign fiction entity? I mean, to me it should be a pretty clear answer, but you've got to ask yourself those questions. I mean, if you want to be the banking entity, if you want to be a piece of document, just move to Washington, D.C. And I don't have a lot of money, but hey, you know what? If you need the help, I'll help you get there. I might have to drive your car for you or fix it so you can go, but I'll help you get there if that's where you want to be. But you don't need to be on American soil if you're going to be part of tyranny, apartheid, genocide, treason, constructive treason, rape, and kidnapping. If you want to participate in that stuff and you want to finance those guys so they can do it, move to Washington, D.C. We don't want you on American soil. Because you're not American. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing there, brother?
Yeah. I was just going to kind of back up what you said there, Ray. One of the things that I know is that they operate by putting themselves in parity with us And they only do that because they can, they're not able to ascend to a living man, but we are able to descend into a fiction through that presumed straw man and through that 14th Amendment. So because they only operate in parity, we have the upper hand. All we have to do is just know who we are and what we are, and live as who we are and what we are, and they'll die because they can't operate in parity as a fiction unless you are also a fiction. So I just say that to back up my good brother Ray Cox. But Ray, the show's pretty much over now. It's still recording, but the people who are listening in the chat won't be able to hear what we're saying at this moment unless they listen to the replay. But so I just want to thank you again, Ray, for coming on.
Hey, no problem. And for those that are listening to the replay, God bless you all. Thanks, bro. God bless you too.
There'll be a lot of those. There have been. So for Ray Cox, this is Rick Hidalgo. This has been episode 36 of the House of Hidalgo show. Thanks for coming, guys. God bless. Stay safe. And get out of those contracts, too.
Amen.